Hello and welcome to my video lecture on embedding PHP code into your HTML file. We've seen this in chapter 1. So here's an example of a snippet of code, or actually this could be a complete PHP file. So what we're doing here is if we want code to be processed before we display the HTML, you put your code before the HTML in the file. So here, prior to the HTML file, which begins with your #doctype HTML tag, we have our PHP. So our PHP section starts with our less than question mark tag followed by PHP, and then this PHP section will end with the question mark greater than symbol, and that denotes the beginning and the end of a PHP section of code. So here we want to get data from the request. So again, in this case, this would be fed to this page from some other page. So we would take the value that's associated with first name, we would put it into our first name variable, or getting the value from the last name, putting it into the last name variable. Then we would have our HTML begin, and then the body of this HTML is simply a welcome header, and then some text that says first name : and then what we want to do is we want to get the value out of our PHP variable. So here we've got again, we're starting a PHP section of code. So this is going to be a PHP element. It starts with less than question mark, ends with question mark greater than. We have our PHP, which lets the Apache web server know that this is PHP code. We're using the echo command, and we're echoing out the value that's been stored in the first name variable. So this is all going to get stripped out by the Apache server and replaced with text. We're going to do the same thing with last name. We have a PHP section, which begins with less than question mark and ends with question mark greater than. We have our PHP, we have our echo command, and here we're saying we need the value from the last name. In both cases, the PHP command, this echo $last name semicolon, has to end in a semicolon. So here is our PHP file, and if it was rendered in a browser, this is the way it would look. There's our welcome header sorry about that. But this is where the PHP file would get displayed in the browser. Here's our welcome header. Our first name would be, in this case, perhaps Ray, and our last name would be Harris. And in this case, we're passing that in using the URL, using code in the URL. And that will end my video associated with embedding PHP in our HTML file.